All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the August 17th, 2020 meeting of the Delaware County Board of Commissioners. Would you please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Thank you. I'm Jeff Benton, President of the Board. To my right is our Vice President, Gary Merrill, and our County Administrator, Mike Fromer. To my left is fellow Commissioner Barb Lewis, and Jennifer Walraven is clerking today, so let us begin.
Resolution number 20-700, in the matter of approving the electronic record of proceedings from regular meeting held August 13th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote?
Vote on motion 20-700. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 20-701, in the matter of approving purchase orders and now certificates and payments of warrants in batch number CM APR 0814.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote?
Vote on motion 20-701. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
And then I'm going to read item number 3, and then most of us are going to exit, so the guests
more people
can
in.
come into session. Resolution number 20-702, in the matter of the Board of County Commissioners recognizing August 18th, 2020 as a 100-year anniversary of the ratification of women's right to vote.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Right.
Yes. You know, there's more than 10 out in the hallway.
Yeah, I know.
I saw somehow this doesn't.
Okay. For those who are streaming, we are honoring Women's Right to Vote Week and have a number of the local community leaders who are female,
Elected officials.
elected officials, and a few others who are here to help us recognize and honor this great occasion. So we do, obviously we have limited capacity, so I think we're at the right number here. Okay, so I'll turn it over to you. Melissa Schiffel, welcome.
Thank you, Board of Commissioners, and thank you very much for having us here today. I'm so excited to present on behalf of all of the female office holders a proclamation regarding August 18th, 2020 being the 100th anniversary celebrating the women's right to vote. And this proclamation really represents the commemoration of the 19th Amendment, but it also remembers the battle that our ancestors fought for many years up until 1920. And if it were not for them, the path that was laid may have been one where we could not have held office as females. And, you know, Judge Hemmeter, Recorder Melissa Jordan, Municipal Clerk of Courts Cindy DeNovo, Delaware Court of Common Pleas Clerk of Courts Natalie Fravel, Commissioner Barb Lewis, and myself, we recognize those ancestors that went before us, and we're thankful for the battles that they've done. And I also want to take a moment, though, to recognize our Board of Elections, specifically our Director, Carla Herron. She has been part of Delaware County for many years, and we are so blessed to have someone with her experience and leadership at the Board of Elections. And as we move forward towards November 3rd, we are confident as ever in the integrity of our election system. There are so many ways to vote in Delaware County, and anybody that has a question can reach out to Carla, the Board of Elections, go to the website. November 3rd will be here before we know it, and we all should exercise our right to vote. And thank you, Carla, for all that you do for the Board of Elections. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Commissioner Lewis, do you want to
Should
add
we
some
read the
comments?
proclamation?
Would you like us to read the proclamation? We'd be glad to do that.
Yeah.
I will.
I'm going to take a picture since I'm like front and center.
Yeah, normally we would gather in the lobby and
For photo.
be shoulder to shoulder, but we can't obviously do that today. But regardless, I am honored to read the proclamation. County of Delaware Office of the Commissioners proclamation. Whereas Delaware County recognizes and affirms the necessary role of voting for all Americans within a fair and functioning democracy, Now therefore be it proclaimed, it is with pride that the Delaware County Commissioners recognize August 18, 2020 as the 100-year anniversary of the women's right to vote. Many women throughout the years and continuing to this day serve our community in key elected roles. Our democracy, however, wasn't always so inclusive to women. That includes the basic right to vote. Women first requested the right to vote in the early 1800s. It wasn't until the late 1800s that the 19th Amendment was even introduced. This important amendment to our Constitution is what gave women the right to vote. It was finally ratified on August 18, 1920. Today, we recognize this notable anniversary and honor all the women throughout history who fought for us and for our daughters to be heard on Election Day. Further be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners of Delaware County that August 18, 1920 is more than a date in a history book. It's a crucial victory in the women's suffrage movement, the fight for equality. Today, we honor our female ancestors who stood up and bravely shouted over and over, "We will be heard." Our nation is better today because of them. Signed, Jeff Benton, Barb Lewis, and Gary Merrill. So, thank you. Yeah, it's great to pause. I mean, look at the outstanding leadership we have in this room. You know, it's hard to imagine 100 years ago you weren't eligible to hold these positions. I mean, it really is. But Commissioner Lewis.
I'd just like to congratulate my fellow elected officials and our outstanding director of the Board of Elections, too. I mean, now women comprise over 50% of the voters, and as you said, Prosecutor Schiffel, you know, thanks to those who went before us and ensured over many years, I mean, devoted in some cases, I mean, it was their career, a volunteer career, but that push to allow women to vote. It seems amazing that we didn't naturally have that right as we should have. It is a natural right in our country, and it is so important. And now we've progressed to greater heights with our elected officials, and all of our elected women officials do such a great job too. I'd just like to thank you. So.
Thank you.
I have a couple of comments. First of all, I think we are well served by the elected officials, female in our county. And as long as we as a county, we as a country identify people who are best qualified to serve, we are all well served. And unfortunately, sometimes we lose track of that. But as long as we make it on that basis, whether it be sex, race, or whatever, we are well served. I'm going to give a little philosophical comment. First, I'm going to read a couple of quotes. Quote number 1, we ask justice, we ask equality, we ask that all the civil and political rights that belong to citizens of the United States be guaranteed to us and our daughters forever. Susan B. Anthony. And this from our former president, I go for all sharing the privileges of government who assist in bearing its burdens, by no means excluding women, Abraham Lincoln. I think those two quotes say it very well. And I'm going back in the early days of my career. Things have changed considerably for women in our country. Something cannot be said for women around the world. And we should be held to a high standard, but we should be held to a reasonable standard. And don't let emotion get involved in all of this. But go back to the mid-'70s, in my days at the Oklahoman in Oklahoma City, we were an all-male sales staff, with one exception, our church lady, who sells church advertising, Hazel Lauer. I remember the name to this day. And then I remember the day about, I'd been there 2, 3, 4 years, we hired our first female salesperson. What an event that was. That was kind of earth-shaking, opening a door that hadn't been opened before. I remember her name to this day, Sandra Marr. I have no clue what happened to Sandra Marr, but she, in that particular small universe, was a groundbreaker for that, which was followed a few years later by the first black. His name was Rural Green. Those names I remember because they were significant to me as we transition. And I applaud the work that's being done by the lady elected officials in our county. And all thing I want is to see is we always raise the standard, we always hire the best, and if we do that, this country will be well served. And I thank all of you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to echo that. Thank you all for being here today, for putting in the hard work to get elected. It's not easy. I think we all can relate to that. But again, thank you all for all you do. And there's a number of other women leaders out in the lobby, because it's not just the elected officials. There are a number of others, and I see a future community leader out there. Melissa, you know who that might be?
That would be my daughter, and, you know, COVID has weird childcare issues right now, so.
Right,
but
right.
she's here.
Well, it's great that you're sharing this day with her. And again, thank you all. And it's 100 years ago tomorrow was a big day. So we're glad to be able to pause and recognize that. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And I will give you the proclamation,
Great.
if you would like that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
Would you like to vote?
All right, Jennifer?
All right, well, we'll vote on the last resolution. Vote on motion 20-702. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 20-703, in the matter of establishing a new fund and a new organization key for the Treasurer's Office.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Morning, Commissioners. Sorry to follow such a commemorative resolution with something a little bit more mundane, but I'd just like to say that I'm very proud of our elected officials that we have here in the county, all the service that they provide, especially Commissioner Lewis, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Michael.
The resolution before you is to approve the creation of a new fund. It is the Manufactured Home Escrow Fund. Currently, the Treasurer's Office has an escrow fund program in which taxpayers, residents can prepay their property taxes. We have a fund currently established for real property taxes, but we have an individual who owns a manufactured home who's interested in joining the program. This will be our first manufactured home participant, so we need a separate fund established to hold their tax payments.
Okay, vote?
Vote on motion 20-703. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Resolution number 20-704, resolution of necessity for purchase or lease of a motor vehicle for the use of the county sheriff or his employee.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Morning.
Morning, Captain.
I have no idea where you are.
You're up. It's your
We
turn.
just read your resolution.
So today, we're replacing
Need to identify yourself for the recording, please.
Captain Scott Vance, Delaware County Sheriff's Office. To replace of a 2018 Ford Cruiser that was totaled back in March of 19 as a result of a civilian driver that pulled out in front of one of our cruisers. Had about 20,000 miles on it. Subsequently, county insurance has been working with them, and just recently it was paid off at like 38,000 some, and the remainder, the offices came forward and earmarked so that we could replace the car to ensure that the rotation within the fleet is maintained properly. We ended up holding back a 2012 Charger that year because of the accident.
All right, vote?
Vote on motion 20-704. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Resolution number 20-705, in the matter of declaring the necessity for improvements to Cheshire Road and approving a professional services agreement with LJB Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Morning, Commissioners. Rob Riley, Chief Deputy Engineer. We are proposing to initiate a new project that will improve the section of road between the two roundabouts at Pyatt Road and at Old State Road on Cheshire Road. This project will basically widen the road to a 3-lane uniform section. We have taken a contribution from 2 developers, Homewood and then Fisher Homes, I believe, on the north side, basically in lieu of them building turn lanes at their new developments. We'll roll that contribution into this project. So construction-wise, we're probably looking at about the end of 2023, probably going into 2024 to build this. So this is the first step in getting the engineer hired. We've worked with LJB a number of times before. They do really good work, and so we've selected them through a qualifications-based selection process and recommending moving ahead with the engineering.
Okay, the only question I had was the timeline, but you answered that. So take a vote.
Vote on motion 20-705. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 20-706, in the matter of approving owner's agreements for Liberty Grand District Section 2, Phase A, and Liberty Grand District Section 2, Phase B.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
This is our standard development agreement for street and stormwater improvements. Liberty Grand District is being developed by MI Homes. This agreement includes 54 new single-family lots. These are the ones kind of on the west side of the development, located off Stites Road. So these will be under construction, I'm sure, for the balance of this year.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 20-706. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 20-707, in the matter of approving right-of-way work permit summary sheet.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
These are just routine utility installations. We're recommending your approval.
Okay, vote.
Vote on motion 20-707. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 20-708, in the matter of approving the plats of subdivision for Evans Farm Marketplace and Kipling Knoll subdivision.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Evans Farm Marketplace, this is a 6-lot commercial subdivision located in the Evans Farm development. And then the Kipling Knoll subdivision is a small 6-lot common access drive subdivision off Liberty Road in Liberty Township.
You know the timeline on the Evans Farm Marketplace project?
And my understanding is they're looking to start construction as soon as possible. I think they were just working through some final things with their lender, and then based on what I heard last week, actually, at the Community Authority Board meeting, they're ready to move ahead as soon as they have those I's dotted and T's crossed.
Okay, good, be good to see. Vote?
Vote on motion 20-708. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Resolution number 20-709, in the matter of accepting a donation from Jill Patricia King in support of the Delaware County 911 Department.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Good morning, Commissioners. This donation was made by the person listed, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, very generous of her.
Yes. Wow. That's great.
Yeah?
What will it be used for?
Employee wellness and well-being.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, vote?
Vote on motion 20-709. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
We cannot
Easy,
start
Patrick.
our
Didn't have to say a word.
our 10 o'clock hearing quite yet, but we do need a few minutes to set up for that, or we can go to administrative reports since Mr. Romer is standing there already.
Okay. Just on my report, we had a TID meeting last Wednesday, and I wanted to report that the TID for the North Road project did receive a $250,000 grant from the state of Ohio. Last year, I think we applied for it, did not get anything, and this year we did get that, so that's nice. That'll go to help the project with the elementary school that's, on North Road, so. But that's all I have.
Great.
Okay. Commissioner Merrill?
I only have one thing, and I'm going to have to give a little background before I laid something on both of your desks this morning, so you'd have an opportunity to possibly to read it before. Last Thursday in our CCAO General Government Operations Committee meeting, which is done virtually, I had left the room for a couple, 3 minutes, so I was not aware that the process to be able to get in to make a statement in that meeting. But two of our urban counties, which I'll leave at that, voiced strong opinion, which was supported by that committee. And my inability to get in to express the alternative view was, one, frustrating, and two, led me to write what you'll see in front of you. But basically, the request was to put boxes throughout these counties to facilitate the voting process. And on the surface, that sounds like a good thing, but in reality, it does not serve the purposes that is expressed in that meeting. What happens if you put these boxes around the counties, and they say up to 1,000, and this all came out of the fact that there was a request asked by the Secretary of State for an opinion from the prosecutor's office. He pulled it back, so opinion I don't believe was ever rendered, and the urban counties wanted the letter sent to the Secretary of State requesting that he continue to try to get these boxes. But these boxes we put around the counties, as you may or may not be aware, due to the pandemic, one box per county located at the Board of Elections with, I think, cameras, I think may be true in all 88, to oversee, make sure that people aren't putting ballots in there in bulk, which would harvesting, et cetera. These are all issues, and if you can imagine putting hundreds around the state, they're not going to be checked carefully. The resources would not be there to do that. Number two, they have to be picked up by the rules that were put in place in spring at 7:30 on the day of the election, which means that a Republican and a Democrat would have to go to each one of those physical locations and take them away from all the things they're going to be needing to do at the election office. So because of that, and because I wasn't able to get in to express the alternative view, I authored what you see in front of you. Now, whether it's a resolution, whether it's a letter signed by the three commissioners, but I'm asking for you to read it, think about it, and sooner rather than later. The government committee got approval from the board, from the committee, not the board. Huh?
Is that the full, what?
Just the government committee asked for permission to get a vote, which they got, and they're going to forward this request on to the Secretary of State. But it's just this committee. It's not the board. It's not the executive. I question whether they even have, that's appropriate. But that's a conversation for another day. But the reality is it will be sent, or maybe already been sent. I just felt it was important that we have an alternative view expressed and shared by the Secretary of State, so that's the purpose of this letter. Okay. Now, the letter may not be written to your liking. You may want to make some changes, but I would encourage that we either direct in the form of a resolution or a letter signed by all three of us. That's my suggestion.
Okay. Sure, I'll be glad. I have not read it yet, but I'll be most happy to.
But we need to conclude something before we get out of session today, which we could do after the hearing, even if we need to take a brief recess to allow you time to evaluate.
Oh, so you wanted,
Well, because I know the other letter probably went out Friday.
oh, I see.
Worst case, it'll go out
Okay.
today. So I think it's important that we get something in the hands of the Secretary of State sooner rather than later. And Thursday might be
Thursday,
a
my,
little late.
okay,
That's my concern.
Do you have
okay.
a timeframe in which the Secretary of State is supposed to?
Well, again, my understanding was he made that request, he pulled it back, whatever his reasons, I do not know, and they're asking that he resubmit and make that request again.
Now, when you mean the Secretary is,
To the Attorney General's office for a ruling on what was put in place by our governor in March, April, the COVID, where you're allowed one box at the Board of Elections where people can drop off a ballot.
Per county.
And they're wanting to take that and generalize it to putting hundreds around the
I see.
state, which I think is extremely dangerous.
And impractical.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if the rule is you've got to pick them up at 7:30
Right.
at the conclusion of the election,
Right.
how in the world, you're already shorthanded based on everybody's reports, can you take a Republican and a Democrat and go to those locations and pick them up. Not to mention the fact that the harvesting of ballots where somebody could turn in 25, 30, 40, they may deny that's going to happen, but we know it's happened in other states and could very well happen here if we don't monitor it. We all want a fair election. The question is, how do we do that? And I don't think this moves the ball down the field at all. So those are my thoughts.
Is there a rationale for doing it beyond with the pandemic? I mean, is that what they're saying?
The reason given is the pandemic and this high voting turnout that we're going to have in November. Therefore, we need to make this exception and broaden it beyond just the one box per county that was allowed for due to the pandemic during the primary.
Of course, everybody's going to be sent. It's my understanding the Secretary of State is going to send a request. Everybody will receive a request. And so for an absentee ballot, meaning if I want an absentee ballot, I'll receive that and then I'll say, yes or, if I want one, I'll check it and I'll send in my information. And then I will receive an absentee ballot.
That is correct.
I mean,
and then you send it back. It's either postmarked, you drop it off at the Board of Elections.
So I'm struggling to see why you would put drop boxes everywhere.
I can't justify what I disagree with.
And also, let's say Ohio has one of the most liberal voting times to vote in the nation, 30 days before
30 days, including
the
election day, which is stated in that letter when you get a chance to read it.
Okay, good, I'll read it, yeah.
You also have the ability to do absentee voting.
It's 10 o'clock.
Okay,
We can recess, yes, we can continue later.
okay, sure,
The hearing.
With everybody on
Okay.
Zoom and
Sure.
waiting room.
oh, all right, okay,
So we might want to recess, allow time to read the letter, digest it, and come back and make.
that sounds good, okay.
So what do you need us to do?
Right now, we can just recess for while we set up our Zoom meeting. So technically, we will be in recess here for a few minutes until we come back when the Zoom meeting is set up to have our River By hearing.
So we need to go into recess for
Maybe
5 minutes?
not even, like maybe 2 minutes.
Well, let's at least give 5.
Okay, so so at 10:05, we'll come back.
Okay.
That's 3 minutes.
Okay, we need a motion?
We don't need a motion for that, do we?
No.